do a really weird intro today, but honestly, we have a very interesting subject today.
Everything is fine. I thought we were
That's me.
a really weird intro.
JR, we were already having technical difficulties.
Mute me.
I don't care. I can't unmute you, JR, if I do this.
Everything is fine.
Don't do it then.
That's me. JR,
Turn down your volume.
Mute me.
Anyways, everyone, that was the new intro for the Citadel and J.R. podcast.
Most professional podcast on the air.
Most professional podcast on the air. Today, we are going to be talking about a subject that is near and dear to all of our hearts, which is mental illness. And of course, in the Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones, there is quite a lot of that going on. There is a lot of subject matter here. We all have our own personal experiences. And we do want to start off with the disclaimer that we do not take this subject lightly. I've been affected by it. Gemma has been. JR. We all want to make sure that everybody knows we aren't going to be making fun of this subject in any way. Anyway, and this is going to be more of a serious discussion talking about these subjects. So just a disclaimer for everyone that's going to be in chat. But now,
can I just add to that, Kyle? Just really quickly. While obviously we don't take mental illness lightly, it is a very serious subject. It does need to be said that this, in the context of what we're talking about today, these are fictional characters. So please don't put too much weight on any diagnoses that we make. These are, of course, open to interpretation. There's so much more going on here with magic and prophecies and demons and fire and blood sacrifice, which is obviously not applicable to any real world circumstances that we can talk about. So, yeah, I just wanted to add that. Shutting up, carry on.
And that's Gemma, my co-host. And then we have J.R. Rowley.
How are we doing today, everyone? Good to be here as always. Hello to everyone in the chats.
I mean, he already had his big opening about...
it was great.
We already, got our technical difficulties out of the way today, it seems. So,
for the attempt 3.
Oh, my goodness. Anyways, everyone, welcome to everyone in the chat. We have Mia Ice and Fire, CC Stark, Matthew Nash, we have Preston, who is a Blackfire Song of Hype, Mel of Winterfell, we have Helen, we have Drunk a Song of Ice and Fire History, welcome, Travis Michael, Mama Ogre, Carrot Cake, Chris Weinberger, Claire Coleman, Sakura, Scotty, Do As Dad Does, Happy Fox, and many others. And we did get a pre-stream donation, Swedish Cronin from Katrin. That's going straight to the GoFundMe Worldcon Fund, and I'm leaving for 4 days and 5 days until I see George R. Martin in person. So really excited about that. So Gemma, where should we start off with today? Mental illness in the Song of Ice and Fire. There's a lot to cover.
Yeah, before we look at any one particular character or one particular variety of mental illnesses, we know that there is a lot. I mean, this is why this discussion is so poignant, because this is a story where these characters clearly have mental illnesses, whether they be quite on point or whether they are more analogous to a mental illness is up for debate, and it varies from character to character. But the thing that I love about Game of Thrones, among many other things I love about Game of Thrones and the Song of Ice and Fire, is that this world has consequences, and this relates to this, because how many films or TV series have we seen where the two characters have been in this unbelievable fight? I mean, and I'm talking physically here, not mentally. And they've basically, I've watched fights and thought, flipping heck, I'd have been down on the first punch in that fight. No way am I getting back up from that. And they're just going at it and at it. They seem invincible, don't they? And then if they do get hurt, they walk around with this cool battle scar, it just makes them even sexier. Whereas in Game of Thrones, this is not the case. They get maimed, they get disfigured, they're disabled, they're permanently scarred. And this is a world of what we might call casual violence. And I'm going to argue that violence is more acceptable in Westeros than it is in the real world. And this in itself is going to lead to a lot of antisocial behaviors, like in 90% of the characters. At least. So I mean,
Well,
as far as
I think right off the bat, you have to suspend the fact that pretty much everybody's going to have PTSD in this world just because of the era. Like, so we're going to go ahead and just like suspend. Yes, everybody has PTSD, but let's talk about those ones that actually had very traumatic personal experiences versus the nature of the entire world that they live in.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, completely on point, JR. I mean, we've got the obvious suspects for psychopathy, Joffrey, Ramsay, Cersei, and there's different variations of that, in my opinion. And then we've got PTSD, which, like you said, is basically applicable to everybody. You know, Sansa, Arya, Jon, Ned, everybody. But I think we're going to look at the ones, like JR said, that are a little bit more poignant, and for me personally, I'm thinking Sandor Clegane and Theon Greyjoy for PTSD, amongst other things, because with a mental illness, you know, you don't just pick one, do you? It's just not quite as simple as that.
But in those cases, it's like you just said, Gemma, the physical scar. I mean, the Hound is disfigured, and Theon is a eunuch. He got his wiener cut off, so that's something that is, and I mean, he's tortured and flayed, among many other things. But JR, I know you had a great point to start off with.
When it comes to PTSD and the characters that actually, well, sure they all have it, that very much suffer from it. For me, it was kind of funny because I was having a conversation with a bunch of veterans about it and how to go about on this discussion. For those of you who don't know, yes, I'm a combat veteran. Yes, I have PTSD. Depression, anxiety issues, all sorts of stuff. Like, it used to be a lot worse than it is now. And a lot of that comes from finding communities like this or finding other veteran communities. So please, anybody that's, you know, dealing with it, just find people to talk to. I just want to say that first and foremost. It's probably the easiest way to start handling this. But with Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire, like, for me, it became like a little piece of hope, because when you're talking about the PTSD characters, especially, why it's easy to point out, you know, Arya, the Hound, the ones that are very traumatically affected by PTSD. And then you go to kind of the middle of the road PTSD, like Jaime, to an extent, you know, he harbors all that guilt about not protecting Elia Martell and the children during the sack of King's Landing. You know, that's something that he suffers with. He has no qualms with what he had to do with Aerys. Like, he makes no bones about it. Like, I did it. What? It needed to be done. But then you have the ones that are, like, somewhere on the other end of the spectrum, like your Neds. Like, yes, it's there for him, but he is arguably the most well-adjusted in dealing with PTSD. Tyrion, too, to an extent, just because... yes, he drinks, which is obviously a coping mechanism. I will totally tell you that right now out of personal experience. But
Tyrion,
Ned, you know,
Tyrion is like Bane. I was born in the darkness. Yeah, but instead he was like born, like literally into this life.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And Ned, you know, he doesn't take to drink. He has flashbacks, especially in the fevered dreams. I mean, that's a lot of intrusive memories coming through. Obviously from Milk of the Poppy and other outside influences, but it's all still there in his head. And for me, it's just like, it gives you hope, because you see a whole spectrum of characters dealing with different variations of PTSD and in different stages of healing from PTSD, which I think is a great allegory for like how you actually have to work through it yourself. I mean, there's no one answer. There's no silver bullet when it comes to it.
No, I think you're on point with like Ned. He clearly has flashbacks, but like you said, there are different degrees. I mean, like you said, every character pretty much has a certain degree of it, but like the real world, they're all at a different stage with it. You know, some are deep in the depths of it, some are really not coping. The Hound, we saw initially, was having panic attacks related to fire. He was drinking alcohol to distract him and deter him from his anxiety and to cope with flashbacks. And this relates to the extreme abuse from his brother. I mean, as Kyle said, obviously we can see that there are physical scars from what he went through, but it's clear that there's a lot more going on for Sandor Clegane there. But in the show, at least, we do see a progression. We do see that he stops drinking as much. He still likes a drink, but in series 1 and 2, he was just drunk permanently, wasn't he? So
Oh, absolutely was.
Yeah, we can see that he is dealing. You know, it's not like a magic click his fingers and he's miraculously. And I'll get to this when we get to Theon, because I do have beef with some of the things that people said about Theon in season 7, and I think they really missed the point. But we'll get to that in a minute. I'll let you guys talk.
We have a couple of donations before we get into the next point with JR. Stephen Kudiper says, just want to say watching y'all's videos helped me deal with my depression and anxiety. I love the whole A Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones community. Stephen, thank you so much. I'm going to put you on the wall hype in just a second there. And the Prince That Wasn't Promised. As someone who suffers from anxiety, depression, and minor OCD, I feel this topic hype and love. Thank you so much to both of you. I'm going to let JR talk for a sec here while I put these guys on the wall of hype. I'll be right back.
All right. Thank you all for the donations. Really appreciate that. I'm pretty sure that's all going to World Cotton Fund, like right off the bat. Yeah. With Pete, and let me state this before we go any further, because I'd be remiss if I didn't. In no way, shape, or form am I talking for all combat veterans of any conflict anywhere in the world. Like, I am only going to refer to my experiences and those that I talk to, and I'm not going to name names by any stretch. But these are people that I talk to and deal with on a daily basis, and I had a long conversation with a lot of them about this topic prior to this chat, so or this live stream. So it's one of those things. The point we were making was about what Sandor and the physical scars that you carry.
Yeah, I mean, people can see the physical scars, aren't they? But it's abundantly clear that the main scarring for Sandor is not his face.
And it's funny, inside of the military community as a whole right now, there's a big movement that refers to PTSD as the invisible wounds of war, which it is. You can't see all of them. There's no physical impairment by and large. I mean, I came back with 10 fingers and 10 toes after, 3 times of trying. But the other side of it's still there.
I mean, and that's the thing too for Sandor Clegane. It's like this sense of belonging. He's this really big guy. He stands out in the crowd. I mean, that's all when it all starts out with. Really, he was playing with his brother's toy. He just wanted to
his toy night.
Yeah, his toy night. Funny enough, but that sense of companionship and belonging, like finding your place in the world. I think that that's something that I've struggled with. As a person, as most of you know, I mean, I hurt my back and I had to deal with that. And I didn't know what the hell I was going to do for a long time. So I think that's kind of what Sandor is dealing with.
Right. And on the book side of Sandor too, because it's not really mentioned in the show as a whole, but from childhood. So he dealt with the mutilation of his face at his brother's hands, the rape and murder of his sister, whom he couldn't protect, and the suspicious surroundings of his father's own death, which is all pretty much assumed in the books that it was done by the Mountain on one level or another. And part of his PTSD and part of his healing process, whether we want to talk about it or not, was the way that he looked after Sansa and then in turn Arya, because that was his failing and his regret from childhood, is that he couldn't stop the Mountain from what he did.
Speaking of Arya, I think that's a good segue. Julia Ed in the chat has just said that a friend of mine says mental illness is a normal reaction to an abnormal situation. And I think this very much applies to most of the characters, but very much to Arya. She's got a few things going on, hasn't she? There is the PTSD for sure. She's kind of trapped in this perpetual survival mode almost, this state of heightened vigilance, and she's had to. But you could also look at obsessive compulsive disorder as an offshoot of it's one of her coping mechanisms. She literally cannot go to sleep until she's recited her kill list. So it's not just that she's reciting something over and over again. It's that she feels that there is something she cannot do until she's done the reciting of the list.
And some level of dissociative disorder when she gets to the House of Black and White with the Faceless Men. I mean, that. And if you think about it, from the time that Ned lost his head in King's Landing, how many characters did she play even before she got to Braavos? I mean, she was Ari, the orphan boy. as they're all trying to go to the
horse face. I mean,
horse
Lovely
face.
head.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, there's
Yeah.
literally 10, right? And you know what's really interesting about that is I just actually read an article 2 days ago, and they're doing more and more research on traumatic experiences. And what they found is from the age of 7 and below, if you have had a traumatic experience, that shapes your whole life. And this was in kind of relation to some of the things that are happening in the U.S., the children that are being taken away from their mothers and stuff like that. They were doing research, and they were saying that this has like really, really, really bad consequences for people down the line. Drug use and all sorts of different things that will happen for people to deal with these experiences later on, because they don't end up coping with them naturally in time, or they don't get the proper amount of care or someone telling them or helping them deal with it, essentially. So that's something that I really and in the books, they're younger,
milk of the
right?
poppy's expensive. Let's face it.
Yeah. And
shade of the evening.
Yeah, shade of the
evening. Shade of the evening.
One of my.
Can I just say that the chat right now is I'm really appreciating the chat. Normally we have a little bit of shenanigans going on. There's a lot of tomfoolery. There's a couple of English words for you there. And it's just great to see everybody talking about this so candidly and with such sensitivity. And it's quite amazing, actually, how open everybody's being to their own personal experiences here. And I am reading these, and it's wonderful. There's a lot of people, this is coming up a few times in the chat, people saying that Game of Thrones and or this community and what we do here actually helps. And for me personally, being able to focus my attention to something I love, the reading and the writing, certainly helps, when you're having those darker days.
Gemma,
you agree, right?
Gemma, I would say like most of the appreciative message that I receive are actually in relation to someone not feeling well or cheering them up, or in relation, a lot of people have reached out because I've spoken about it openly, and I don't, people are like, Kyle, you should be more careful about what you talk about. And I'm like, no, I like to talk about these things because I feel that if you do and you bring light to these issues, you can connect with someone else that may be a little bit more afraid to talk about it, and give them a little courage or a little bit more insight, or a bit of knowledge on how to deal with the situation. Because really, honestly, like I said, we've all been through different situations. JR, obviously, he's a combat veteran. He's dealt with different things. And Gemma, me and you have had private conversations about many different things, anxiety, depression. And, I had to deal with an injury, which kind of, basically took away, my 28th and 29th year of my life. So yeah, I think it's really awesome. And, that's part of the reason why I say hype and love. And that's one of the main reasons I have said this so long on the channel, is for this exact reason, is to inspire people and make people feel better. So awesome chat. Well,
I just love the way I say one thing that's really British, and the chat just picks up on that and they run with it. We've just got tomfoolery all over the chat right now.
Hashtag tomfoolery, yeah. But going back to Arya, is one thing that's really interesting about her is she kind of reached a period where she completely ignored everything. It was just like she wanted to be oblivious to everything that was going on. And obviously Sandor was trying to teach her these lessons like, hey, this is the real world. You're going to have to deal with this. And she kind of just, took off and thought that, this House of Black and White thing was going to be this amazing thing for her. And it turns out she ended up learning some lessons along the way, obviously. And now she's in, a pretty different position where she's committing some acts that are a little bit more aggressive and violent. And so I'm a little bit worried about her future, but I genuinely think that, she will end up relating back to the words of her father. And so has Sansa more and more. It all kind of relates back to Ned and how stoic he really was in the face of all these things that were happening. Who wants to go? I know you guys have more points on Arya, so
I do. But JR, do you want to go first? Do you have anything else about Arya?
With Arya, I think that the PTS is really an underlying condition, and I'm going to say the same thing about Theon when we get to him too. Yeah. It's an underlying, and it was probably the major contributing factor to being susceptible to others. Totally agree with that, but when you're talking to dissociative disorders of any kind, whether it's multiple personality or anything else, like you're going down a whole line of mental illness that's each one is hard in itself by itself, and now you're combining these. Like, how many superpowers can we combine? It'll be fun.
Well, one thing that's really interesting is the multiple personality disorder that we talked about. You know, Arya's why those characters. This I don't want to say transgender, but she's the closest to a male and female character, other than Brienne of Tarth being both genders. So she's kind of always struggled with, you know, not being the normal daughter of in a royal family, essentially, and that's kind of been a situation that's been frowned upon in other families, you know what I mean? So it's like, but obviously, you know, Ned and Catelyn are a little bit more understanding, and they let her kind of express herself in the way that she felt most comfortable.
Well, I think that was more Ned than it was Catelyn.
Yeah.
I don't think. Yeah, no. It's only because he saw Lyanna. That's the only reason she was allowed to do it.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Stephen Kutipa says, #tomfoolery. Who thinks Euron is the most mentally ill character in the whole community? Just hold your horses. We will get to Euron in due course. I think right now we're kind of dealing with the mental illnesses that are caused by environmental and outside circumstances. And then we're going to move into some heavy schizoid stuff. Okay? And that's
Gemma,
when we're going to discuss Euron.
Before we get into that, we have 2 more donations. Thank you so much. By the way, everyone, like I said, there's like, I think 2 more streams before we get that cutoff for payday. So you guys are being eternally generous right now and really being helpful for the trip. So Maura Lee, she doesn't have a question. Maura, if you do have a question or a subject that you would like to bring up, let me know. And Claire Coleman, it says, amazing discussion. This is bang on. Point for me, so many people, including me. It's a good talk. Thanks, guys. Thanks so much, Claire. Go ahead, Gemma.
Arya, yeah. This is, and somebody mentioned very, very early on in the chat, and I do apologize, I can't remember who exactly said it, but like I said, I am kind of keeping one eye on this. And they said that they were essentially waiting to see the consequences of Jon's resurrection in the show. And this goes back to what I initially said about consequences in a Game of Thrones. They're very real, they're very tangible, and not necessarily pleasant most of the time. And this, I feel that we've got this with Arya. This is, you know, that I struggled with season 7. There was a lot of things about season 7 that, I struggled with season 7. Let's just say that. And one of the things was Arya's seemingly reversal. The second she got back to Winterfell, she just became relatively, comparatively speaking, well-adjusted. Whereas prior to that, she'd been chopping up people and cooking them in pies and feeding them to their father and slitting people's throats and stabbing people's eyes out. I mean, this is not a well-adjusted little girl. And now she kind of, and it's like, if we need to see the continuation of these consequences. But what you were saying, JR, about this, I think it's more dissociative personality disorder. But we could say what she's going through is kind of analogous to schizophrenia or multiple personality disorder. But obviously, it's all connected with magic and the House of Black and White and all of that.
Oh yeah, I mean she's comboing down on a couple of it, and she's bordering a couple of others too. I mean, it's what Arya is. The hardest part about season 7 with Arya and Winterfell is they did such a good job with Theon. Like, yes, he was gonna cower down in that moment when Euron's taking, what is it in the show? Is it Yara in the show, or is it?
It's Yara. It's Asha in the book, because Asha.
Yeah, Asha in the book.
Yeah, we can't do both apparently.
Exactly, because it's so confusing. Now it confuses me because I have this weird hybrid in my head of book and show. It's all mangled. Anyway, but they did so good with Theon. Like, of course he's going to cower down in that moment. He had to jump off that boat because he was reeking that second. He wasn't anywhere close to Theon or the Ghost of Winterfell. It doesn't exist for him yet. And so they did so good with that. And then seeing Arya back at Winterfell and being everything's just great. It's like, what?
Yeah. Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, I guess they tried to do a little bit of service with it when, she's plotting against Littlefinger and not trusting Sansa. And, I mean, they kind of ish, sure, but no, it was pretty garbage. Especially on the mental illness side of it. I'm like, yeah, no.
But Theon, I think we need to talk about Theon, don't we?
By the way, Gemma, announcement yesterday, Alfie Allen was announced to go to DragonCon, and we requested an interview with him. I'm like pretty certain we're gonna get that one. I'm not gonna for sure confirm that one, but there's gonna be Alfie Allen, who plays Theon Greyjoy, and Pylu Asbeck, who plays Euron Greyjoy. House Greyjoy is going to DragonCon, which we'll be attending. So, sorry, I had to get that out of the way. I couldn't hold it any longer.
Ridiculously exciting. That is
well, last year, Gemma, I've told the story about how we had an interview with Lena, who plays Cersei, and she canceled her flight 5 hours after we booked our hotel. And all that. So, anyways, back to Theon Greyjoy.
Yes. Can anybody say Stockholm syndrome? We're
starting at the age of 9.
Cool.
Okay. We're moving past PTSD, but we're not really, are we?
Because no, not at all.
Theon, I think people want to kind of just put that one singular label when we're kind of doing this hypothetical conversation, and as we've already discussed, we can't do that, especially not with Theon. But this Stockholm syndrome, definitely, he's got this loss of identity as a result of trauma. He has psychotic episodes, and at one point a complete break from reality. And what you said, JR, about that scene where he ran from Euron and he didn't save Yara, I saw people in the community, in chat rooms and places, calling him a coward, saying that he should have, that was his moment of glory, he should have stepped up, he should have done this, he should have done that. And it just, it broke my heart, because I just, like you said, it was like 1,000,000% missing the point. Do we not remember what he went through?
It's sad commentary on the majority of the populace of the world's misunderstanding of how mental illness works in any form or function. Like, no, it's not. In a world of magic wands, there is no magic wands to fix it.
Yeah, and this is Game of Thrones. This is not a world where you click your fingers and just miraculously get over something like this and then go and slay the evil uncle. I mean, yeah, they're kind of doing that a bit with Jon and Arya right now, but I'm with you. I was really pleased. I think it was handled beautifully, and it was heartbreaking.
Alfie Allen, by the way, is the best facial expression actor in the show, and it's not close. And just to say this, the culture of the Iron Islands leads itself to violence. Like, let's be honest, that was Viking culture, and it's toxic masculinity. So a lot of people that are saying this have this kind of toxic masculinity within him. They're like, no, Theon needs to be a man. You know how many people have crumbled to these type of situations within human history? Many, and they were great men. So just for people to kind of say that in that situation, it's like, imagine you were in his shoes with all that you went through with Ramsay, who is probably the most psychopathic character in the series. Speaking of mental illness, he's crazy.
We'll get to Ramsay. Don't worry about that.
He's coming.
Ramsay.
We're getting to Ramsay after, but just think about that for a second. Stop for 5 seconds. Okay, now you know what's up. Now you put yourself in Theon's shoes.
Well, it's also how Hollywood has always treated it too. I mean, like, Hollywood's had a great depiction of any kind of mental illness in a true form or fashion. No, it doesn't exist. And I don't blame those ones in the chat room that said, no, that was his moment, he was supposed to do it. Well, yeah, because it's fantasy and it is TV, and yes, that should be. But this is also a little bit more reality based, and it's not his moment, and that's not what he's going to do. He didn't even know who he was at that moment. Yeah, sure, he thought he was, Theon, but he was still Reek. He was still the ghost of Winterfell. He's struggling with all his own identities at that moment. Like, no, he's not going to coalesce. All three of those mighty forces are not going to become the one who slays Euron. Like, no, it's not how it works.
Yeah, but like you said, that's the trope that's been set up, isn't it? In Hollywood, in television and movies, that's what we've seen. So to say that should have been Theon's moment, what they're actually saying is in most normal films and televisions and even books, to an extent, the trope has been set up is that the hero will have the moment of overcoming everything, and everything's going to be butterflies and rainbows and kittens, and they'll be the hero and they'll step up. And you know, this is a man trapped in an anxious cycle of PTSD, and book Theon, that there's even more going on. I mean,
it's even worse in the books.
Yeah, he's manifesting physical symptoms like catalepsy as a result of
locking out. Yeah.
Yep.
The body rigidity. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually quite traumatizing.
Let alone in the books, he can't even grip a sword anymore.
Yeah. And he has even a decreased sensitivity to pain, which is just crazy. But yeah, even reading Theon Ulrich chapters, those later chapters, is utterly traumatizing. It really is.
I'm going to take a little, somebody is saying in chat that there isn't any toxic masculinity in Westeros at all. So I'm going to take a poll of my panel and in the chat. Panel, is there any toxic masculinity in the world of Westeros? Why blame it on toxic masculinity? It doesn't exist.
Well, I'll take it. Okay, I'll take a shot at it. I'll go with the fact that you can't put modern standard on antiquity. That's like arguing about right of conquest. Well, right of conquest existed for a long time before it was said, oh yeah, by the way, that's not what civilized people do anymore. So but if you're trying to look through a modern lens through what happened historically, you're already committing a fool's errand because it's not comparable. You can't do it.
So it's like 100% in chat nonstop. Here, let's read Nonstop's comment first. There's murder, rape, and pillaging. Why try to degrade masculinity because of it? You aren't going around saying there is something wrong with femininity because of things women do.
There's many horrendous characters in Westeros and in the real world that are both male and female. I don't discriminate. People that suck. Correct.
This is just
one simple rule. It's I don't judge you for anything other than if you're an asshole to me or not. You'll get what you deserve accordingly. Like, it's really simple. I don't care what you subscribe to.
Just to be clear, Nonstop, I'm going to end it with this point. I didn't blame all things on toxic masculinity. I implied that there were certain situations, especially in Theon's world in the Iron Islands, that has toxic masculinity in that culture. This is why Yara and Daenerys made an agreement.
Yeah, but they're equal opportunity because she still is a captain that put Theon's captain ability to shame.
Anyways. Let's continue with Theon Greyjoy and let's move on to Ramsay after this.
I'd like to, before we move on to Ramsay, can we talk about Jon Snow? Because I do have a diagnosis for Jon Snow.
You don't have a diagnosis for Jon Snow?
No, I do.
Oh, you do? Oh, yeah. Okay, I know which one it is. What part of it?
Seasonal affective disorder. He's depressed, just like pretty much everyone in the North. And I did. But
he's consummately depressed. I don't think it has anything to do with sunshine or not.
Well, they're all a bit morbid in the North, aren't they? I think they're all suffering from SAD. But I did mention this. Con Snow's in the chat. Hi, Zach. I did mention this in a video that I did about 8 months ago now. I did this video where I talked about mental illness, and people were laughing because I said Jon Snow had seasonal affective disorder. I'm being quite genuine here. It's a thing.
Yes, it is.
It really, really is. It can, but I do think obviously this isn't just like a living in the North thing, like you said, JR.
Wait, I live in the lands of always winter where there is. Okay, let me tell you, because I suffer from this. I don't know if I can do one more winter, and I think that's it. I'm not even kidding. I'm so done with winter. I'm like a grandfather, and a semi-young man's body. I don't know.
JR, do you agree?
Yeah, it was certainly depression. I don't know if it's necessarily sad, but I think he's more like on the line with clinical depression. I mean, he's had a rough upbringing. Catelyn didn't help him at all. It's just that's how his life was. I mean, what was it? Was it on? It wasn't Saturday Night Live, but the Jon Snow makes the worst house guest or dinner guest. What do you know about being a bastard? Like everything he said was basically depressing. It's like, God, my father was beheaded at the hand of the king.
I never knew me mother.
I never knew me mother. Sorry, I'm not Con Snow. I can't do it nearly as well. Hey, Zach, what's up, buddy?
Con Snow is in the chat, by the way, everyone, and thank you everyone for attending. I think we're over 90 people now viewing. So steady stream of people have been coming in for this discussion, and this is a topic
which is awesome.
This is a really awesome, a topic that we've been wanting to discuss for quite some time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Speaking of Kit Harington, has been quoted as saying that he thought Jon was a psychopath because Jon seeks out violence, and I vehemently disagree with that statement.
It's circumstance, isn't it? Like, you can't help the situations you're being forced into. You joined a brotherhood whose entire job is to defend the realms of men. Like, sorry, you're going to deal with some shit. It's like joining the Marine Corps. I'm sorry, it is. Like, hey, you're going to have to handle some shit. You better figure it out one way or another.
Yeah, I mean, the Night's Watch is not exactly a center of healthy relationships or emotional stability, is it? Let's face it. But speaking of psychopaths, we need to talk about Ramsay, don't we?
Yes, I suppose we do. Sexual sadist.
Yep.
You can go ahead, JR. I'm going to deal with this toxic masculinity thing in chat. I'm not done with this guy.
Oh, is that still going on?
Oh, yeah, I'm not.
Oh, it's still going. Oh, wow.
I'm a Gemini. I forgot about that. That was so 5 minutes ago.
I know somebody with your same disposition. That was 5 minutes ago. I don't even care about that anymore. Yeah, Ramsay. So, yeah. Wow. Abusive relationship with his father, Bruce, which, I mean, obviously the Boltons are a very, very hard old northern house who has actually revolted against the Starks. Flayed men is a thing, and he enjoys doing it. Sexual sadism. Wow. Yeah, no, he's a psychologist's dream.
Yeah, and Stephen Kutiper says hashtag ADHD. Quite probably. The reason why he was, and this is in the books more so, I don't think it's really touched upon all too much in the show, but the reason why he was given over to Roose in the first instance is because his mother, when Ramsay was a child, just could not cope with him. He was utterly wild and out of control. This wasn't something that developed when he was with Roose. He was always like this. So yeah, I'm really on board with the ADHD idea. I think the real salient point with Ramsay is that yes, he's clearly a psychopath, or is it antisocial personality disorder? They keep changing the names, don't they?
Yes.
But it's the pleasure that he takes in the suffering that he inflicts upon others and the utter lack of remorse. That's what makes Ramsay.
Oh, he's completely devoid of it. It does not exist in his heart. It is not there.
Usually someone who isn't crazy reflects on these types of things and says, oh, I might have done something wrong or regrettable. This is not one of these people. So he doesn't have that in him because he's like a sadist. He finds some sort, like, he may even be aroused by this type of action, and there are people in the world that do get excited by violence and whatnot, which is
he absolutely does. I mean, his hunts, and I mean, it's more pronounced in the books than it is in the show. I mean, they kind of gloss over it, which doesn't give you any real context for how serious of a game it is for Sansa and Theon when they jump off the wall, or that off of Winterfell, off the guard tower. Like it doesn't. You don't understand how deadly of a game that is for them and for him, and how serious he takes it. because now the hunt's on, and that's all he cares about. That's why the dogs were such an important part of it. And they kind of glossed over it. Like, no season 7 bitching. We'll push that aside. That's not what we're doing today. But it's kind of hard not to.
The first time I read that hunting, I'm just like, just when I thought that George R. R. Martin could not get any deeper in the depths of depravity, he's outdone himself once again. I mean, I'm pretty hardcore, I'm pretty desensitized, but wow. And then when we saw that scene in the show where they're chasing, and I'm thinking that they can't, that not on television, they can't, surely, but they didn't quite go there. So
no,
they I mean, with the backlash they got from the Sansa scene, if they would have completed that, I mean, it would have been way worse.
Yeah, if you've not read that scene, then wow, go read it. And if you have, you know exactly what we're talking about. That is fucked up.
Which the chase or Jane Poole?
Yeah.
We have AU Pack Meal, who's listening to us while driving. AU, nice to see you in chat.
Drive safely. Don't text and drive. It's not safe.
We have Leia of Alderaan, Laura D. We have Mia. No, we already had her earlier. Jean-Luc Picard, who will be returning to Star Trek. Welcome. Patrick Stewart's in the chat.
Patrick Stewart back.
Julia Edda. We have Jon Snow. Scott McCloy. California Treasures. I'm excited to go to California and find some of my own treasure, hopefully. And Princess Sansa is in the chat. Wow. Okay,
and Nicole is in there too.
Smokeahontas is here as well. Yeah, I saw her earlier. So cute. And I'm sure that just Geordie Jedi. There's a few more people in here as well.
Oh yeah, Scott calling me out with words of safety. Hey man, don't text and drive. It's much better that way.
Chrissy of Oldstone, Josh Scott, Sherry McLean, and many other awesome people.
Sherry.
Yeah. Donnie Locklear, Zephelia. Hashtag Sansa Forever. That's right, Zephelia. By the way, Tal Mascadan did get his shirt. It is a collector's item because we can't sell them anymore. We got copyrighted by the big HBOs.
And they said no mas.
No mas for hashtag.
Can we just talk about Sansa for a second?
Yes.
Oh, Sansa. Oh, absolutely.
Because, I mean, we've got plenty more to go through here. I mean, we haven't even started with Joffrey or Euron.
Oh, my God. He's awful.
We're saving the really bad ones for that.
But can we... I've got 3 people that I think have come out of all of this relatively unscathed. And I mean, comparatively speaking, I don't mean that they're okay. I mean, in Westerosi terms, you've already said one, JR, and that's Tyrion. Clearly, he's a drinker, and he's, using that to numb the pain or as a coping mechanism of some kind. He's clearly got daddy issues. Who doesn't?
Oh, absolutely.
But like, when we compare him to the others, I think you're right there. He's actually quite well adjusted. I also think, and I'm talking...
and I said Tyrion because of his drinking, and he's like, believe me, there was a time where this JR that's fun and easy to hang out with and enjoys people wasn't really there because he was a drunk asshole and put his family through a lot of bullshit. So if any of my family's watching, sorry.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah. I tried. I did the best I could, but it's better now. I'm glad to still have all you in my life. And on the reality side of this, like, it is something. You don't realize how much you put people through until you're actually on the other side of it. Which, it's still there for me. It still exists. But I genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, I'm sorry. So sorry.
Yeah. Who's Kyle Dobbs? Who doesn't have daddy issues, Gemma? We need to dig into that. We can't gloss over it. We're talking about the psychological issues of some fictional characters, not my problems right now. That's a whole other stream, and probably not one that will be live aired publicly.
Ever.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Good call on that one. And like we said, like we are laughing, we're having fun, but these issues are very serious, and we're not
very serious
making light of them because we've all personally experienced them in some sort.
Yeah, when you've experienced the similar kind of thing yourself, it's sometimes laughter is is the response, isn't it?
Gallows humor is a coping mechanism. Oh, absolutely.
What I would like you guys to do in the chat, and I'm going to ask you to as well. JR's already said Tyrion. I've got a different one. Who do you think is the most well-adjusted, comparatively speaking? Disclaimer. For me, and a couple of people have said Davos. I mean, I'd love to see who you think in the chat. Who's the most well-adjusted, considering Miss Sunday is one that stands out for me. But for me, it varies when you consider what he's gone through. I mean, is paranoia and voyeuristic impulses a mental illness? I mean, that's his job, right? I think aside from that,
Varys, yeah,
he's quite well-adjusted. I think Sansa is as well. Jon Snow says that Gemma is a fictional character. Fuck off, Zach.
Already with the fucks. How about Hodor? I mean, minus the whole time warp again.
That's a tricky one because we can't really ask him, can we?
No, but you get Hodor.
You'd get Hodor.
Oh,
we've got some coming through now. Duran, yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's a bunch of them.
Very good, Scott. Yeah, great point. Tormund, Samwell, and Tyrion. Who do you think, Kyle?
There's so many. I mean, those are all great choices. Tyrion's a good one. I mean, I think he's
on the darker side of okay. Yeah, he's great at it.
I mean, he's still. I mean, I don't know. He still finds a way to maintain some level of happiness. It's very in the books. He's going down a very shit path at the current moment.
Oh, very, very dark.
Very, very.
So is Jorah. Thanks a lot for doing what you did, Jorah. We wouldn't be in this situation if it wasn't for you, Jorah.
But you know what this is this is, me and Gemma have spoke about the hero's journey. We got to talk about this at a panel at Con of Thrones. This is kind of the rock bottom point that characters hit before they can kind of have that rebirth. And A Song of Ice and Fire is a story about rebirth, hitting these low points and then trying to find yourself and becoming a new person. These Azor Ahai type of moments, like the people that are cripples, bastards, and broken things are going to be the people that survive because they have had these incredibly difficult lives, but they learn how to adapt and survive these incredibly difficult situations, right? So that's what's so compelling about all of these things that are happening to these people.
Claire Kalman has said Gilly. I mean, crikey, yeah. Considering what she's gone through, right? I mean,
her father's...
Anyone could forgive her for being a complete and utter head case, but actually, she's not.
I mean, so, yeah. she's just happy to get out of that nightmare that she was in, I think. I mean, I mean, her father is the father of her child, which is just absolutely disgusting.
Gilly. Okay. Got it. I was like, wait, who the hell are we talking about?
Craster is one of those characters that just makes me get shivers down my arm. I'm just like, oh my God, he's disgusting. Like
Nicola Jorkin thinks that Cersei is very well adjusted.
Nicola, I don't know.
And she's a fantastic mother too, isn't she?
Oh, amazing. Speaking of being a fantastic mother, we really need to go Joffrey now, right? I mean, wow, Joffrey.
Wow.
Are we going Joffrey? We're going to go with our offspring?
Settle in.
How about Tommen, minus his mother? I mean, he was fairly well adjusted.
He was. He was such a sweetie, wasn't he? But, I mean, there's still time for Tommen, right? I'm talking book, because he's still alive.
Book, of course, but... Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Let's just go ahead and go with Joffrey because I got some words about Tommen.
Okay. Joffrey. Wow. When I talked about Joffrey in this video that I mentioned earlier on, my biggest focus was why. There was no argument that he's a clinical sociopath. But it was more why, is this an incest thing? And I think... From what I can recall, I concluded that actually it was probably more environmental, to be honest. I mean, can you imagine having Cersei Lannister as a mother? That's going to contribute, right?
Silver Spoon.
Oh, Silver Spoon syndrome. But even in your video, Gemma, with real world numbers about the effect of incest and mental illnesses that come along with it, it was still shockingly less than modern society as a whole. It was like something like 11% are affected with mental afflictions of some kind inside of incestuous relationships. and it was like 16% of the modern population had mental illness. So it was like, oh, so your odds are better being a product of incest.
Yeah,
Got it.
statistically, if you're inbred, you're less likely to have mental illnesses.
Oh my god.
Which is kind of it's a sad real statistic though. But I mean, really look at the pools that they're going after. So I there's some fuzzy numbers in there, I'd say.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're different now. I mean, I don't know. They're probably changing all the time. So
I don't think it was. I mean, when we say silver spoon syndrome, I think the thing with Joffrey is he was just never held accountable for his behavior, was he? Never. I mean, he was
except for one glaring example.
Yeah.
And that's when he decided to present the kittens to Robert, at which point he just beat the shit out of him.
Yeah.
Which is not in the sorry show watchers. Yes, it's in the books. It's very well documented in the books, and that was about the only time that Cersei threatened Robert with an inch of his life.
You know, let's actually take a poll here, because this has been hotly debated. Is Joffrey or Ramsay worse? That's a tough one, right?
They're different. I mean, Joffrey's callous and arrogant. I think it's quite safe to say that Cersei probably drank while she was pregnant with him. She was emotionally
fetal alcohol syndrome.
I think Ramsay. I think it's quite clear that they were both born with it. If for want of a better, I mean, Ramsay for sure.
Ramsay is more sadistic.
I'm going to go Ramsay on that one. Like, and only because at least you could somewhat reason with Joffrey or play it game on his terms that he would agree to the terms on. Like, oh God, who was the drunken knight? Name day.
Dantos.
Yeah, Dantos. And she talked him into that. Yes, it's show, but you know, I mean, at least he could be somewhat reasoned with.
Yeah, and you could stroke Joffrey's ego, couldn't you? Whereas
to manipulate it, yes.
That would not
you
work.
Were not, you know.
No.
And Sansa's quote about Ramsay, when you think you have him in a trap, he actually has you. Should have listened to that, John. Should have listened.
Chat is pretty much unanimous with Ramsay. I think I saw 2 Joffrey votes.
Oh, Joffrey was a shit, but no, I think Ramsay was by far worse.
And by the way,
Joffrey wasn't going out on hunting people, was he? I mean, it's sad that's the basis of comparison for being the better person. He wasn't hunting people.
And doing things with dogs. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Well, yeah.
And by the way, everyone, we got 103 people watching and 54 likes. If you are enjoying this chat, smash that thumbs up button. Of course, subscribe to the channel.
Well, we're just doing a little mini timeout before we move on to Cersei Lannister. Can I just point out my T-shirt that Sanrixian sent to me? The North remembers. I love it so much. Thank you, Sanrixian. She sent me this all the way to England with a little care package. I've got a Lyanna Stark, Queen of Love and Beauty T-shirts. I've got a little picture and that she's drawn for me, and I've got a sticker that I've put on my laptop. So just thank you so much, Sanrixian. Go over to sanrixian.com/en/ to purchase these T-shirts and type in hype for 15% off. Okay, plug done.
Okay. Speaking of support, you can find the link to all of Gemma's stuff, Patreon, her channel, all of that in the description of this video. So if you want to, I'm sure all of you are already subscribed to Gemma's channel, but if you haven't checked her out, make sure you go check that out in the link in the description of this video. JR will be more on the channel. He's actually going to be helping work on some of the Marvel stuff coming up. Iron Fist, especially me and JR are going to be working on the second season of Iron Fist together. But if you do want to support the channel, you want to support me helping cover events like going to see George R. Martin in person, Dragon Con, interviewing Alfie Allen, you can support this channel by being a patron of this channel. You can pledge $1 and upwards. And I also have a GoFundMe where you can donate any amount you so choose, and it really, really helps the channel grow and you know, do bigger and better things. So all that's in the description of this video. All right, Gemma, what were we on to next?
Cersei Lannister.
Cersei Lannister. Do you want to start off with this one, Gemma?
Which is Helen's role model, apparently, if everybody missed that.
I'm going to throw this one over to you or JR.
It's Cersei. Well, Kyle hasn't kicked one off in a while. I guess we can get Kyle on Cersei.
I agree. Kyle, go.
Yeah. No, Cersei Lannister, obviously, I mean, the foreshadowing in the books has always been so comparative between her and the Mad King. Her eyes are green like wildfire and all of this and that. But, Cersei has had this really interesting life, and it all kind of really started off with her not getting betrothed to Rhaegar, and then her going to Maggie the Frog and trying to find out if she would ever become queen of the Seven Kingdoms. And she was really always ambitious in that way. And I think, obviously being part of a royal family has affected her in a way that, like the silver spoon, these royal family people feel entitled to certain things. And I think Cersei's always felt entitled to certain things, and she's always been beautiful. And but she's kind of had this self-fulfilling prophecy, which has made her more paranoid and numb to other things in the world, and she's became more focused and anxious about certain things in life. But she hasn't had it easy either. She got married to Robert. She never got married to Rhaegar. Robert was never really interested in Cersei. Robert was always interested in Lyanna and other women whoring around and even drinking more than her. And I think that has affected her in a way. But, there's all of these different situations that have affected Cersei and made her into this even more manipulative person than she already was. She was already very manipulative with Jaime Lannister, her brother, and they all always loved each other. But, she's always been this manipulative person, but she's also been descending more into madness, and she's a character that has these multiple sides to her that are so compelling. So I think that Cersei deals with some form of anxiety, and I think some form, I don't want to say PTSD, but definitely anxiety, which causes her to be more act out and lash out against other people. Gemma, what are your thoughts on this one?
Cersei's a malignant narcissist. There's no two ways about that. She has this pathological need for power, success, and status. Like you said, she manipulates. She uses her sexuality and her looks to manipulate. She exploits people. But I was getting a lot of passion from you for Cersei and what you were just saying. I don't know. I'm more book than show. She's hostile. She's dehumanizing. She undermines people. She's utterly repulsive. And the thing is, we don't get her point of view for quite a while. And you always wonder, well, by the time we get to Theon in A Clash of Kings, it's quite clear that we're dealing with unreliable narrators here. So you do wonder, well, maybe Cersei isn't quite thinking like that. Oh, we don't really understand her motives. And then when we get inside her mind, oh my goodness,
it's even worse.
It's worse than we could have ever possibly imagined.
Where do we pick Cersei up in A Feast for Crows, don't we?
Yeah, she's just so
that's her first POV.
Deluded. She
awfully
buys
deluded
into her own shit. She really, really does. She 100% believes it. It's crazy. JR, how do you feel about Cersei?
Since I can't separate the twins, I'm going to talk about both of them.
Good idea. Yeah.
Cersei is an absolute narcissist, whether it's malignant or just straight narcissist, with sociopathic tendencies. And Jaime is absolutely a borderline. He always ends up in the middle of her plans at her whim and gets absolutely effed every time. Like, I got this great idea. You're going to join the Kingsguard, and when I'm in King's Landing married to Rhaegar, we'll still be together. It's brilliant. About that.
Great idea. Jazz.
I mean, obviously Tywin's daughter. I mean, how could that not go awry? Smashing, isn't it?
Tywin's the megalomaniac, but so yeah, that's not going to help.
Is he though? Is he?
I think so.
Oh,
I think he's a consummate utilitarian, because megalomaniac would only be worried about himself and his name, and he's not. He's always pitching that it's the family name that lives on.
Family name.
We're all dead in the ground. Your name won't be remembered. Your name won't be remembered, but the Lannister name will be remembered. And so I think he's a little bit outside of Megalo and more as just an absolute, probably the worst utilitarian ever.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I mean, Yeah, but we've already brushed upon Tyrion, haven't we? And obviously, daddy issues. Yes, we are aware of that. But so I think Jaime and Cersei and Tyrion, it's all stemming from their father, ultimately, isn't it? But they all have very different responses to it. Jaime is possibly the biggest victim out of all of them, whereas Cersei refuses to be a victim, doesn't she?
Yeah, and actually, in talking about this, it just popped into my head. I was like, can a narcissist or an actual sociopath suffer from PTSD?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Like I caught myself thinking that. I'm like, I wonder if that's actually medically possible.
I mean,
like I'd love to read a case study on that, but
yeah, I'm not obviously a psychologist. I've studied
neither am
psychology,
I. I'm just wondering.
And I've studied sociology. I'm not a medical professional. We did our disclaimer at the beginning of this. This is purely based on opinion, but I can't see the two. I can't see how that would work.
For me, it's too far gone.
Yeah, I don't think so. It's because they are so focused on what I mean. They're not. Yeah, I don't think it's possible. Maybe in some.
I don't think so. Maybe if somebody else can point us in the direction in the chat of, well, yes, it is possible. Here's a case study. I mean, I'm all about it. I will find it and I will read it. Trust me.
That's a very good point, Helena. Even when she is a victim, she threatens the nun. I think you mean the septum, but that's how we all know.
Yeah,
well, yeah, the septum.
That's
Shame.
a very good point. She does, doesn't she? Even the shame walk, I mean, she has that brief moment where she almost breaks, but she doesn't quite break, does she? The show made up much more of that breaking, I think. Yeah, whereas Book Cersei, she's just mad. She's just out for revenge, isn't she?
She's crazy.
She's crazy.
Well, I mean, arguably show is too, but it just hasn't gotten there in the books yet about how depraved it's going to get, because it's going to get even worse than it was in the show.
Yeah. We've got a couple more to talk about. Have we got time, Kyle?
Yeah, I
got time.
I was going to say we can open it up to what I was going to say is I thought we can open up to questions in the chat, and maybe we can tackle the subject a second time for some of the other characters that we haven't got to.
But we can't go without talking about the character with the most complex and extreme personality disorder I have ever seen in my entire life, can we?
All right.
No, I don't think we can.
Baelor Blacktide said it best, didn't he? Balon was mad, Aerion is madder, and Euron is the maddest
of them all.
Euron Greyjoy.
I mean, and we're talking book Euron here, because show Euron is just not even worth talking about in this context when we have book Euron. So if you're a show only watcher, apologies.
Are we going book, or are we going the jolly pirate?
No, we're going book Euron. I mean,
there's no
book. Oh, okay, thank God.
Psychopath.
Okay, I mean, so spoiler warning if you have not read the advanced chapters from A Winds of Winter, because it's going to come up. I'm going to tell you that right now, because I will make references to it.
The Forsaken. Yeah.
Yeah, Forsaken chapter of Winds of Winter.
The thing is with Euron is it's so complicated, isn't it? And I said it's extreme, but it's so complex because he's brutal and ill-tempered. He's a child molester. He has the complete lack of empathy that we spoke about with Ramsay, but he's also intelligent and he's considered and he has this unwavering confidence. He's even charismatic.
He is.
Yeah, but he has these dangerous mood springs and he's unpredictable, but he's also high functioning and successful. Wow. I mean, obviously he's drinking Shade of the Evening, so there's some potential psychedelic drugs involved here, and there's even the war theories and things to take into account. But where are we with Euron, guys?
Go ahead, J.R.
Yeah, Kyle. Yeah, no good. Take that one. Absolute sociopath. I mean, he has no remorse over the things that he does, and even more on the abusing his brothers growing up. Like, he actually took joy in walking past their rooms and knowing that they were cowering, wondering if he'd picked them that night. I mean, we're talking a level of sick and twisted that is just beyond comprehension. But again, he is charismatic and he is personable on some level. But it's all a mask. It's all an act with him. Everything. It's only for his own personal gain. Victarion, everything that Euron's ever given me has been poisoned. It was a poison gift.
There's always this underlying vibe with Euron that no matter how irrational or crazy he comes across, there's this underlying vibe
intelligence.
that he knows what he's doing, that he's got it all worked out, that this is all part of a scheme or a plan, that this is completely intelligent design, like you said. No matter how, just because we're not understanding his actions, there is definitely a feeling that he certainly does, and he's clearly going somewhere specific with this, whether that be raising a kraken or becoming a god or any of the other amazing things that we've predicted for Euron.
Stephen Kudiper says Euron is very much like the DC's Joker. What do you think about that?
He is a nihilist. Yeah, I mean, the Joker's
a
a
nihilist.
nihilist. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, let's put it this way. He got Thalia Flowers pregnant. He cut out her tongue and put her on a prow of a ship.
Which all seems crazy, right? But it's that, like JR said, there's an intelligent design, isn't there, behind all of this?
But it's absolutely awful. Like, I don't know how many worse things have been committed than that. Like, that's as bad as it gets, I think. Or, I mean, I don't know if it can it can probably get worse than that. But
I can think of a couple of examples.
But we're talking about a pregnant
we can go
woman.
back to Ramsay again really quick. I mean,
but we're talking about
being strapped to the prow of a ship is one thing, but
we're talking about a pregnant woman having her tongue cut out and put on the prow of a ship. That's pretty bad.
I don't know. It's not the worst thing that's happened in a Game of Thrones or the Song of Ice and Fire, but it's up there. I mean, top 5 at least.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Top 5 at least.
But the fact that we're saying top 5,
is it funny that? Isn't it funny that we were like, man, I love this stuff. This is some of the best material ever written. Do you know how dumb this shit is?
I know,
we're laughing, but it's really bad, honestly.
It is really bad. Sometimes you have to laugh. I'm sorry, y'all. And yes, we are taking mental health really serious, but some of it, I'm sorry, but you gotta laugh at this because it is so bad.
This is how desensitized Game of Thrones. This is what it's done to us because we're kind of
this is what it's done to us.
She was tied to the prow of a ship and she was pregnant and had a tongue cut out. Meh, we've seen worse.
Yeah.
This is where we're left now. But
that was the first idea that popped in my head. I'm like, Gemma, did you just like mash this? I'm like, what?
Yes, and as Mia Icefire says, pregnant with his child as well.
Yes,
and,
Mia's totally right.
Euron, who was disappointed with Euron? Because in the show, in season 6, I was personally offended by the King's moods. I cannot even get into that because I'll get triggered. But I did say, do you know what? No, I'm going to show Euron the benefits of the doubt for season 7. But can you match up to that? I mean, is this an impossible task? Are we being too harsh?
No, I book Euron, I'm sorry, will not translate on any other media platform. I don't think he can. I'm amazed they got as far with Ramsay as they did. I mean, they pulled just short of other things. Euron, to bring Euron to full bear on the show, I think is an impossibility. I don't think he can do it in any other media.
I mean, no, there's no way they can like show half of the stuff he does on the show.
And there's no way to flash back to it. There's no way that makes production sense. I mean, you can't. How do you have Damp Hair talk about his brother that was walking by his room and he was wondering if he was the one getting molested that night? You can't. Those kind of internal monologues just don't translate well to any other form of media. It's really hard to do.
We might see someone's tongue getting cut out, but I don't think we'll see a pregnant woman on the prow of a ship or anything like that. I mean, there's
I don't think so either.
That's long since passed, what I mean? And show Euron is completely for just something like gallivanting, as we would say.
Okay, with a view to, I'm aware of the time that we've been going for a while now. I've still got a few left. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a quick crash course, and I'm just going to whiz through a few.
Stannis? Is it Stannis?
I've got a few, so I'm gonna go through them.
I love
really
Stannis.
whiz through my bullet points here, and then you guys can discuss, and then we can take some Q&A, like you were saying, Kyle, from the chat. I've got Littlefinger, pathological liar, high-functioning psychopath, charming, ingratiating, cold, calculating. He says he loves cat, but he doesn't. Patch face, starvation of oxygen to the brain, cerebral hypoxia, limb weakness, disturbance of movement, all that jerky, crazy stuff. But this is a magical thing. Lysa, Aaron, goodness me.
Oh, yeah. Wow, we didn't even catch her.
Flipping out. Bipolar, mood swings, manic depression, which is what bipolar used to be called, elevated moods, and then depression, the highs and the lows. She's emotionally unstable. She has unstable relationships, unstable emotions, and an unstable sense of self, but she did have a large dose of tansy, which could have potentially caused brain damage. We don't know. Dany's got a messiah complex. Mel believes she's a prophet. She's probably delusional. Stannis has probably got Asperger's. Tywin, we've already covered. A pathological egotist, perhaps. I'm done. You can discuss all of the above.
Chat, we'll open it up to questions. Who do I dislike out of most of these characters? Stannis, just to be clear. I know
you
that.
Dislike Stannis?
Anyways, chat, we're opening up to questions.
But Stannis is the one true king. Did you just say you dislike Stannis? I'm going to have to rethink this entire partnership. This is brand new information.
Sir Jaime Lannister, the Kingslayer. If anything, he's still a knight.
Yeah, we've got loads coming through now. Jaime Lannister with dyslexia, that is a show-only addition.
Invention, yeah.
Yeah. And can we have some love for Stannis? And can we trash Kyle for saying that he didn't like Stannis? Stannis, please. G's name taken. He's already on it. Shame, Azor Ahype. Shame.
Shame.
I'm getting shamed in my own channel. That's awful.
I can't even boot you from this stream. If I could, I would at this point. Just
oh my God.
Wow.
Wait, chat. Should I boot Gemma right now?
If you can, then I could go and get a sandwich. I'm starving.
She's famished.
Gemma, well played. Well played. That was...
Now it's more punishment to keep her on here longer. You do realize that, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we will keep her on the panel for longer.
What about Littlefinger?
Which
Come on, he's surely the most high-functioning psychopath in the entire series.
Oh, he absolutely is. And his ability to plot and see ahead is pretty amazing, actually. Or creating the environment where people are only left one of two choices, and he can accurately figure out which one they're going to take because of his knowledge of people. Like, it's brilliant. I mean, don't do that, but it's brilliant.
Preston has got I'm assuming that's some form of boot or shoe. That's an awesome emoji.
And if anybody knows how to get the throne emoji, like I've been trying to figure this out and I cannot figure out how to get the throne emoji. Apparently it's a thing and you can get it.
You know what?
An throne emoji.
You know what?
Yes, there is a throne emoji.
I need an actual. And
it's the Iron Throne.
I need a throne in this room, like some sort of wooden chair that has like lions or dragons or skulls on it or something. I need a throne.
That's not the one I was going to send you.
G's name taken's got a very good point. Dyslexia is not a mental illness, by the way. Neither is cerebral hypoxia, which hypoxia.
No, it's a medical condition.
Face, which is essentially.
And yes, I'm dyslexic too, so I actually liked that add-in for Jamie in the show. It's not in the books at all, and actually reading books is what got me out of how bad my dyslexia was growing up. And one amazing teacher, specifically Mrs. Wright, that did an amazing job with recognizing it very, very early, and so I had a lot of help.
Yeah. Where are you with Lysa Arryn then, guys?
Lysa Arryn?
It's
by the
easy,
way,
isn't it, to just say she's cray? She is just batshit and just
she's off.
But what she's dealt with is just
by the way, Kate
tragic.
I've got to chat with Kate Dickey on multiple occasions. We chat on Twitter, and she is so lovely. Like, she's the nicest person you would ever meet. And then she, like, just for her to, like, she did a terrific job as Lysa Tully. Really,
It seems so out of character for her from what you and I were talking about at con. I was like, because she didn't come to con this year, and that was kind of sad. But she sent an amazing announcement. She had a death in the family, and you had said that from the year before that she was absolutely amazing.
oh, she was one of the nicest people. I mean, just salt of the earth. I mean, like we would have a normal conversation like we would, just super cool. Kyle Dubb says Kyle has post-traumatic boot disorder from getting booted off Gemma's.
Post-traumatic boot disorder. I love it.
Wow.
I was just about to read that one out, Kyle.
Kyle Dubbs is such a troll, but I still love him. Yeah, bipolarism. I mean, there's Qyburn.
She's definitely
Qyburn. Nicholas is Qyburn. That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
It's bipolar. I don't think Qyburn's bipolar.
No. Just in general. What is
Just in
Qyburn?
general. Okay, I was like,
Delusions of grandeur.
Yes.
oh, absolutely. God, what other diagnoses would he have? I mean, he's not sociopathic. I mean, he's searching. Well, is it really sadism when you're trying to find the truth of human anatomy and body? I mean,
it's maybe kind of a messiah, kind of not entirely a messiah complex, but that's not a proper diagnosis anyway. That's not an actual thing.
No, it's not.
We are actually not doctors and psychiatrists. Just want
no, we're just spitballing at this point.
Just want to clarify that. Just make sure.
Yeah, Qyburn is a mad scientist. He is. There are many historical parallels to that character, isn't there? Quite disturbing.
I mean, I guess narcissism would kind of fall into that because he's the ends justify the means.
We've got a few here: sociopath, utilitarian too, obsession disorder, and G's name taken is a psychologist.
Huh.
So maybe she could tell us a bit more.
On Qyburn. We know he skips leg day.
Yes, we do know that. Thanks to San Rixian. Necrophilia, Sydney K.
Let's not even get into that. How about Sydney? Thanks. I really appreciate it, but I think
yes, and you might be correct, but yeah, we're not going there.
Is that more of a kink and not a mental illness?
Gemma, we are going to end the stream right here. By the way, everyone,
thinking out loud.
That's going to do it for today, everyone. We've had an absolute blast chatting with you. JR, what's going on, man? What's next for you?
What's next for me other than having 5 scripts at least in the can by the 7th of September, which we talked about last night.
For Marvelous, we're going to be covering the whole
for Marvelous.
Of Iron Fist. We're going to cover every episode.
That's correct. Nothing else really going on at the moment. Hopefully we get a hookup while you're in the States. We're trying to work it out. Hopefully that should work. And then y'all can find me at Geek Chat 1 on Facebook. It's a page I just started that kind of includes this fandom and a bunch of other ones as well. It's open to everything as long as it's geeky and nerdy and all the things that we love. Yeah, it's open forum in there.
Geek Chat 1 on Facebook. Gemma?
I just want to say thank you to everybody who joined us in the chat today. I think it's great that we were able to discuss something that's potentially quite sensitive with sensitivity, but we were also able to have a bit of a laugh too, you know, in the context of this still being a fun community where we can talk about these things. It's a balancing act, isn't it, when we're talking about something like that? But thanks, JR, for joining us. It's been absolutely fascinating listening to you, and you guys in the chat, you all rock, you know it. I'm doing more chapters. I'm actually reading the Tales of Dunk and Egg for my Patreons at the moment, which I am just completely disproportionately excited about. You have no idea. We're going to do a live stream on Friday on my channel with Robert from In Deep Geek, and we're going to talk about Dunk and Egg, which should be fun.
Super excited about that. And yeah, like I said, we got lots of things coming up. Like I said, Alfie Allen and Pilu Asbeck got announced for DragonCon. Really excited about that. We're going to be covering a panel with the Black Panther writers at Worldcon, George R. R. Martin at Worldcon, and the special event. We'll be doing a special podcast with History of Westeros, which is going to be really awesome. I'm going to be doing live streams from California. I leave in 4 days, everyone. Really, really excited. And it's going to be an amazing trip. And I'm really excited to be delivering you guys content from Worldcon, DragonCon, and from my trip. So if you do want to support the channel, Patreon, go find me in the description of this video. That's all for today, everyone. Hype and love.